everyone to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And tonight we have an amazing show for you guys with my amazing guest, Sonny, and my father, Johnny Pollock. So let's get started.
Welcome to Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk, the fastest growing sports talk show in the country. And now, here's your host, Jasmine Pollock.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. To start the night show, we're going to talk about a very sensitive topic. And I want to start with you, Dad. So this past week, we saw the Raiders let go of John Gruden after some controversial emails surfaced of him saying some derogatory things and controversial things. So, Dad, let's start by saying, do you think we will ever see John Gruden again as a head coach in the National Football League, or any coach of that matter?
The answer for me is I'm going to say no. For the simple fact that once a person goes through something like that, his reputation has been tarnished. I actually liked John Gruden as a coach, but his reputation has been damaged. I don't pass judgment on him because I don't know enough about the situation to really dig into that. But as far as a coach, not even coaching, I would say anything that has to do with the public, as far as broadcasting or anything like that, his previous job, I don't think he'll be able. I don't know if they're going to want to touch him or bring him back in because it is just the new atmosphere we live in. One of the biggest things to me is the emails, if I'm not mistaken, were from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And one of my biggest questions is, where have they been for all this time? And who was the person actually receiving the emails? Because I would like to know what that whole conversation went like from both parties. And is anybody questioning that person? Because if you had that kind of information and it all of a sudden surfaced, where has this been sitting, in some sort of archive? I mean,
right.
that's what's, kind of funny to me about the whole thing. But if he were having, some of the comments, and I want to mention exactly what it is they're saying he said, because I don't want to pass judgment, but I think that was just a major misstep on his part to put something like that in on email. Anybody can see email,
right.
Especially if it's a company email. They can pull and review anything that you type. So you would think somebody at his status would be a little bit more aware of those types of things.
Right.
So which also brings the question, how comfortable was he having a conversation with the person who he was emailing or communicating with? That's the questions I would ask.
I agree with that. And for me, I feel like I don't think we'll ever see him as a football coach ever again. Just because of the sensitive things he was saying in those emails. I'm not going to go into detail, obviously, but I feel that, you would think, being that John Gruden, he's a professional, he was in a professional setting, and you would think he would have more logic than that and, have more empathy. But obviously, he says, oh, that's not who I am. Well, you can be one person on the field and then a totally different person off camera. This is just how it works. But I want to ask you the same question to you, Sonny. Do you think we'll ever see John Gruden again, being that he has a good resume, Super Bowl champ? What are your thoughts on this?
I don't think we'll see him again. I have to agree with your father that he won't be coaching anymore, and there's no way that they can put him in his announcing positions that he had been in previously. I think this is more, it's a pattern. This was not a one-off where he sent some random email, but these were conversations he was having with high-level NFL officials, the president of the Washington football team, president of operations, and he said these things about multiple people. He disparaged DeMaurice Smith, the president of the executive director of the NFL Players Association. He said some really derogatory things about him. He talked about gay persons being drafted and his feelings, which is really astounding because he's the coach of the only openly gay NFL player. And he said just derogatory thing. You know, it's just across the board. He touched everybody. So for him to say that this is not him, it's kind of scary. So I don't see him. And when you look at his record, since they won the Super Bowl at Tampa, his coaching record, he's like 15 wins under 500. He has a 67, and I think it's 82, 67 wins and 82 losses since then. So he hasn't been the greatest of coaches. So I was kind of baffled how he got a 10-year contract in the first place. And some would even say that the team that he won the Super Bowl with was really Tony Dungy's team. True. He built that team. He built that defense. And even the last 5 years that Tony Dungy coached Tampa Bay, he was like 14 or 15 wins over 500.
Absolutely.
So, you know, based off his coaching record, which I don't think is as great as some people might say it is, and what he's done and said over these, you know, it's multiple years of the things he said, I just don't see him coaching again ever. Yeah, and he shouldn't.
For sure. And I agree with what you said, like him, even not just him being a coach, but also being like broadcasting in the public eye, because that's just, you know, you already said something offensive as a coach, and you already have this duty to be the leader, to be the spokesperson for this team, because you're the head coach. And now, you know, okay, oh, you said these things and then you can get it. I don't think that's going to happen. But even that, like even today, like I heard Skip and Shannon, you know, they were talking about on Undisputed, that maybe 3 or 5 years this may blow over and he could potentially, you know, maybe get a position back at ESPN or Fox. Do you think that could happen? Like, you know, because sometimes they say, like 3 or 5 years or years down the line, things blow over.
No way.
If you look at anything in history where a person have done that, they've disappeared. Yeah. And I would tell you, some of those people are probably not are not in as good of a position as him, because he's still going to get paid a substantial amount of money. So, you know, and the man, you know, he can't be hurting for money. So you would assume. So I would think this is that time. I mean, he's not an older guy, but I mean, he's not super young. I mean, 10 years down the line, you know, he's probably going to go somewhere and just relax with his family. That just makes sense to me, because he's been in the public eye for many, many years. So I think this is going to be that much needed break, and he has the money to basically say, hey, you know what, let me ride off into the sunset. But I just don't think, I mean, I may be more forgiving than some people, but I don't think that he'll be back, because, you know, once you put that out, now people are going to always question you, regardless of whether you're a changed person or not. People are always going to question you in the public eye, and I don't think you can overcome that. At least not in the situation that he would be in, because you're dealing with a sport that has a high level of African American players, just like you said. Now we have openly gay players in the league, and it's just going to be, you know, in a diverse situation like that, it's going to be hard for him to operate, and especially in the media, which is very diverse.
Yes.
How is he going to work with his colleagues? I mean, it's going to be tough. So I just don't think we're going to see him again.
Yeah, I agree with that, because just like you mentioned with Skip and Shannon, you have talking heads in the business, such as Louis Riddick, who are really, really hurt and offended by what he said. And one of the things that Louis Riddick said that really stood out to me was when, you know, Louis Riddick was going for these GM positions, and he has to wonder now, what were these people really thinking of me as I tried to put my best foot forward to try to get these positions? You know, you got him, you got Eric Bieniemy, who the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. Why hasn't he gotten a head coaching position?
That's true. That's serious.
Throughout the league, but based off of his record. So, you know, because Gruden was talking to these executives like this. So is that the mindset that's really going through these decision makers' heads? And
makes you think.
And so he's, you know, so you got these talking heads are really saying, hey, look, this is not making any sense, and we can't allow this to happen. So I just don't see him. And again, these are colleagues of his, you know, former colleagues of his. I just don't see it happening where he comes back from it.
Yeah, I agree, and like you said, like there's a lot of great candidates out there that I feel that deserve a head coaching spot in this league. But we're going to be right back for a quick break. You're currently watching Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. We'll be right back.
Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it? You're watching Jasmine Pollock's First Impression Sports Talk. Stay in touch with Jasmine on her social media channels to see videos, featured guest interviews, and much more. Find Jasmine on LinkedIn by searching Jasmine Pollock. On Instagram, it's at GameSpace_sports. And you can find Jasmine on YouTube by searching GameSpace Sports Content. First Impression Sports Talk airs each Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can see the show live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you missed the live show, we have you covered. A recorded version is always available on social media. And now, back to more First Impression Sports Talk.
Welcome back, everyone, to Jasmine's First Impression Sports Talk. And the final topic of the night, this is going to be a hot one, is Lamar Jackson. He has been playing this whole team, the Ravens team, has been playing exceptional. And Sonny, I want to start with you. How impressed have you been with Lamar Jackson thus far? With all the talk of him throwing, can he throw, or is he just the running quarterback? How impressed have you been?
Yeah, incredibly impressed. I would say Lamar Jackson is a football player. He's impressive. He's his energy that he plays with. It looks like he just plays with so much enthusiasm and love for the game. It looks like he would play for free, but I doubt if he would. But yeah, even because he had to deal. The Ravens had to deal with the running back injuries. First and second string running backs went out early in the season. The offensive line has been decimated by injuries as well, and they're really coming together because they really did a great job yesterday. But he's just really taken command of that team. Been really impressive, and his pocket. He hasn't run as much as he has in the past. He stays in the pocket now, and he goes through his progressions now, and his passing is accurate, and he's putting up yards that he did 400 yards 2 weeks ago, and even yesterday's game where he didn't have to pass as much as he has passed in the last couple of games, but he still was able to control the game. So his on-field management is improved. He's really been outstanding this year, and they need to put him back in the MVP talk as a leader in that category.
Yeah, I agree. I have been on the side for the longest time. Ever since he came to the league, Lamar, we've always wanted to see, can he pass? Can he go down the field with his arm? Can he beat you with his arm? We all know how gifted he is as a runner. This kid they've been talking about this kid, changing positions because they didn't feel as confident as him being a quarterback. And now he's showing you what he can do with his arm more so than just his legs. So I've been very impressed. And this Ravens team is very scary. Like, they beat some of the top teams that, we were picking to be the top teams, the Chiefs, the Colts. I mean, the Chargers. The Chargers were a dangerous team. They're leading the division. And they went in there and just destroyed them. This Ravens team, and then those injuries, you never know, those guys coming back, they're going to be a dangerous team. I think, to me, it's either going to go through Baltimore or Buffalo. That's my pick right now, because I just think Lamar and this team, and he breathes life into the whole team. That whole team loves to play with him, and they loves to play for Coach Harbaugh. So it's really amusing to see this kid play. Like he's one of my favorite players in the league. But Dad, to you, how impressed have you been with Lamar Jackson right now?
Well, so I'm very impressed with Lamar Jackson, but I'll go ahead and give you a little, just to go back in the past a little bit. So we've seen something similar to Lamar Jackson as far as Michael Vick goes. And one of the things I'll say about that is Michael Vick was the most dynamic player, I wouldn't just say runner, player that we've seen when he entered the league. But the problem is Michael Vick didn't evolve early on with his passing. He had sporadic games where you were like, man, if this guy puts the passing game with it, he's going to be unstoppable. Now you fast forward a few years when he was with the Eagles, and I would say the second year with the Eagles, that was one of the most dominant years for a quarterback, both running and passing. And that was the Michael Vick that we wanted to see, because there was no way you could stop that. So now, are we to the point now where Lamar Jackson's going to be that true dual threat to where, hey, if he's passing that accurate, you can't drop that other safety down in the box. You can't just play the run. So now you're at a loss now, because if he's making it down the field, how are you going to game plan for that? Because he still has the athletic ability to rip off. He can take it to the house at any moment, or he has the arm strength to throw it the distance. So he's really putting a lot of pressure on defensive coordinators, because now he's not your traditional pocket passer. So now you got defensive coordinators sweating on how we're going to defend. And I'm going to tell you, if you look at the league, if you look at the linebackers, you look at, back in the day, linebackers used to be these big, bruising, hard-hitting guys. Now linebackers are smaller and quicker, and these guys cover more because of the transition and the changes in the league. So I think Lamar is also one of those guys, because you look at the landscape of the league, has nothing to do with African American or white or any race. If you look, all these quarterbacks coming out of college are now more athletic than they've ever been. So that's going to change the way defenses play, because now you're going to have more athletic defenders, especially on the front and in the linebacking core. So I just think that this type of quarterback is going to really change the game, and I think we're in store for some really exciting things in the future with these new athletes.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you see a lot of these new quarterbacks we're seeing, like when you look at the Mahomes, you look at the Josh Allens, you look at that guy Kyler Murray, even you can add Tua, Baker. A lot of these guys are running quarterbacks now, and they're very, very athletic. And it's changed. It's not like the Tom Brady's, the Peyton Mannings anymore. It's not like they're going to sit there. Like, now,
and Tom's running a little bit more this year.
So running slow, but he's running.
So just a little bit.
Right. It's really amazing to see how it's evolving right in front of our eyes. Like, you can really see, and like you said, these linebackers are getting a lot smaller, a lot quicker, and things like that, because of how the dynamic is changing. Everything is changing right now. Even the running backs. And you look at all these guys, like, they're coming out the backfield catching. It's just crazy. Yeah. But being that I know this is going to be controversial, but I want to start with you, Sonny.
Yeah.
Who are you having right now? Being that both teams are playing very well, Cardinals or Ravens? They're playing very well right now, both teams.
I have to go with the Ravens over the Cardinals because Harbaugh has just built a foundation that's consistent. The Cardinals are just kind of an upstart, sort of. And so I'm not confident yet in what they'll do in the big game, but I know that the Ravens will be a very well-coached team with a great defense when it comes down to the end of the year, because they evolve. He is really good at looking at his team and seeing the best that you can get out of a team. Because even with what he's done with Lamar is incredible, because people didn't want to even draft Lamar. And the Ravens did, and they saw what they had, and they built a team around him. And a lot of coaches can't do that.
That's true.
And so Harbaugh, I'm more confident with him in a playoff game where he'll come up with the correct scheme to put the defense in place that will come through. And I now have confidence in Lamar. He can do anything, run, pass, whatever. So I have to put them ahead of the Cardinals.
Dad, do you agree with that?
Okay, so for me, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Cardinals. And the simple reason why I'm going to give the slight edge is what we talked about earlier, some of the injuries that the Ravens have dealt with. Because if you look at Kyler Murray, of course, Lamar Jackson to me is a better athlete. But I don't think it's that big of a gap. Because Kyler Murray I think he's a smaller guy, but this dude can scramble with the best of them. And if you look at what he has on the outside of AJ Green and Hopkins, he has two of the most dynamic receivers in the league. So when you look at that,
to mention they added Zach Ertz.
Yeah, just that from the Eagles. So now you give him another weapon. And if you look at statistically, he's actually doing better than Lamar Jackson as far as interceptions and touchdowns right now. So when you look at that, it's kind of like, you're going to look Harbaugh, you're looking at experience. So you got to give Harbaugh has experience. But with those Cardinals, the way that guy reminds me, to be honest with you, a little bit of Russell Wilson, because when he's scrambling, you got to be looking down the field because he's looking to throw it deep. And so you got to really watch out for that with him. So I'm going to give the edge to the Cardinals right now.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with the wide receivers and the tight ends and all that, but playoff football, you're not going to be throwing it around like that every game in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to do it. But you will be able to, if you can put a running game together, that will work in the playoffs. And the Ravens always have a run because it's interchangeable running backs. Harbaugh figures it out, and it works. And if you watch the game yesterday, that offensive line, they figured it out. Even with the injuries they had to the offensive line, they were pushing San Diego's defensive line back 3-4 yards. It was unbelievable what they were doing to that defensive line, even with Bosa or whoever else they got. It was so I'm comfortable that that's going to work in the playoffs. I'm not comfortable that Kyler Murray is going to put the ball around.
It's going to be interesting.
That too, like when you look at the Cardinals, even though I think they were my dark horse team to come in for. But when you look at each conference, I think that the Ravens have a better chance of getting to the Super Bowl because I feel like right now it's either what I'm looking at. It's either Chargers, Bills, and Ravens right now. Like the Chiefs, they can still make, but the Chiefs do not look good overall to me. When you look at the NFC, there's a lot of teams still out there, so it's going to be very difficult for the Cardinals just run like I'm seriously, and I feel like it's going to be tougher for them. I think they have a tougher road, so I think I'm still giving, even though I love the Cardinals, they're my dark horse team, but Ravens right now, I give the slight edge to them. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because the Packers. You gotta watch them, and Aaron Rodgers. As long as you got Aaron Rodgers on the field, it's a problem.
He did the double check thing yesterday. So,
and I can't believe I'm gonna say this because about Dallas, but they look good. Arch enemies, but they look good.
Earlier, I said Dallas look hot right now. I mean, offensively, they look hot. So they have some dogs out there on the outside, and Dak's delivering the ball. So
Dallas, we've seen
this. They have a dominant corner too. They have a corner that's really he's getting that ball. So
listen, Dad, I'm gonna give y'all this. When it comes to Dallas, because I do not like Dallas at all. They're my least. When you look at Dallas, of course, they have a lot of great athletes. They're good, and then they're gonna get the playoffs and get bounced. That's what's gonna happen. I'm calling it now.
As usual. But the Cardinals do have a tougher road, and Ravens.
So, one last point on that. So we agree that the Cardinals have a tough road, right?
Yes.
So if the Cardinals are able to get through this road, they're going to be a tough team in the playoffs because they're going to be battle tested. So we got to watch that. They're going to be battle tested. So
we'll see.
It's possible.
I'm going to see, but that wraps up tonight's show. That was an amazing conversation. I think that was just great. But that wraps up tonight's show. Thank you, Dad, for joining me. Thank you, Sonny. It's always a pleasure. And thank you, Jay, for the production. And we'll see you guys next week here on Jazz's First Impression Sports Talk on Mondays at 8:30.